I'm Terri Malik.
And I'm Jared Treadway, and we're inviting you to co-create with us.
From our home base in North Central Texas.
We're hosting conversations that nourish our mental, emotional, physical, and spiritual intelligence.
We are about being spiritually physical.
And physically spiritual.
We are about inspiration.
And aspiration.
We are about involution.
And evolution. We're about self-exploration
and self-excavation. We are about each of us coming to know ourselves in our fullness and wholeness,
so that together we serve the expansion of human consciousness
with the gifts of our specific genius.
Welcome to 33 North, 96 West.
Hello, Jared, and everyone at 33 North, 96 West. I am coming to you from the Bridger Teton National Forest outside of the Grand Teton National Park today.
Woohoo! And what temperature is it over there?
Well, I'm not quite sure the exact temperature now. Probably upper 30s to low 40s. Yeah. Probably in the low 40s by now. Maybe even higher. But this morning, it got down to 30 last night. And it was 32 when I got up. So quite chilly.
We actually had a wee bit of a northern here in North Texas as well. So when I took Buddy for a walk this morning, it was really lovely, and we had the north breeze. So. Oh,
that's so wonderful. I love that. What's that?
I was just going to say autumn is just around the corner.
That's what I was about to say. I love this time of year. You get cooler temperatures, you get beautiful days and nights and all of that. We did go below freezing the last couple of nights, so we had to wake up to some frost, and we sleep in a rooftop tent on top of our truck rack, so it's rather chilly. So yes, I am wearing winter gear right now, and that's just how it's going to be for this recording. But the view is gorgeous. The sun, where the sun is beautiful, but for recording purposes, I needed to be in the shade. So we work with the elements. That's a little bit about what we're going to talk about today. I'm not quite sure where the conversation's going to go.
We never proceed with surety and certainty, do we? We always give ourselves room to allow it to be organic.
Absolutely. A lot of what the topic is actually about, I'm actually experiencing right now in real time. So I do get distracted at times and a little overwhelmed with energy. So we obviously have the elements and God's source creator here working with us for this conversation.
Thank you.
So not really knowing exactly where to start, I'm just going to start. We'll see where it goes. I'm very excited about this conversation with Jared today. I'm very excited to have the conversation about this topic or these topics, and to lead into something that I had not really given much thought to sharing publicly, if you will, at this time, because I just had not received the call or the prompt to do so. And so I'm really grateful for a very short conversation with Jared via text that led into this, to have this conversation. So as you know, if you're new to our podcast, then you might be learning something new here. But if you have already followed us, you will know I travel majority of the time. I live and work on the road and travel full time, and used to do this for 2.5 years in an RV, and now we have what's called an overlanding rig. So everything we have is contained within our full-size truck. And we have a rooftop tent, and then we have various other tents that can make separate rooms and so forth for working or various forms of living. But most of the time, we just live outside, almost 24/7. So something I haven't really talked about and discussed with very many, if people understand this or have a concept of this or have heard of it before, whether it's a personal, intimate relationship with it or just having learned of it, there's something that people call earth gritting. And I don't necessarily use that term a lot, but it is in essence what I do. And so we're going to talk a little bit about that today, but it goes way beyond a concept of earth gritting. Earth gritting for some people is literally traveling around and working with the elements and with the earth and with an area and maybe making a grid with crystals or sacred elements and so forth. That is some people's understanding of what that is, but what it really is you're working with the depths, with all of the elements of creation, earth, air, fire, water, and ether. And you're working with the land. And what we're going to talk about today is how the land holds energy and memory, just as everything does. Everything is energy, everything. I'm energy, you're energy. The elements are energy, earth is energy, the stars, every single thing is energy in motion. So we're working with the energy of the area. And I want to just have deeper conversations about that and give some, maybe even some examples, but also talk about what that really means. Mm-hmm. And talk about what, I love how Jared used the word in our conversation of memory, the mm-hmm. memory that is held within the land. So I think that'd be a good place to start.
Beautiful. Before we start there, may we go back and let me ask a couple of questions or maybe provoke a bit of clarification.
Wonderful.
Yeah. So, as we have expressed in many different ways across different episodes, and as you have just reminded us, everything is energy. Everything is in movement, evolution, change, expansion, ascension. And you've just referred to elements. So I want to maybe just open that up a little bit, which I think will help create a foundation for where we're headed next. When we say everything is energy, could I also expand that to say everything is conscious?
Yeah.
So what this means is that consciousness informs elements, and elements have consciousness. Is that a fair way to express that idea in verbal language?
I think that's really good.
Yeah. So, and so applying that to like what you expressed about some of the techniques that are used by these are shamanic practices of gritting, where the practitioner is using crystal energy or the energy of other found or natural objects as a focusing mechanism, as an interactive focusing mechanism between their consciousness and the consciousness of the crystal, which contains elements, and the consciousness of the environment where they are focusing the energy. Is that all fair?
That is one. Yes, it is. And there is something I would like to add to that has come about for me in the last couple of years very strongly, is that I am that, and all of that is within me as me. Mm-hmm. So I no longer need a 27-foot RV that served many purposes, not just this purpose by any means. It was my home. but I don't need a space to carry all my sacred tools and all my crystals that I worked with for so many years, because that's me now. They're all infused within me. So by me touching the land by foot, even every revolution of my tires on my vehicle that gets me there, everything I'm touching energetically or physically is connecting to those elements that are naturally, below where I'm sitting, actually. I mean, there's these we'll just call them tools. The tools are from the elements.
Well,
They're created from the elements.
Beautiful. And may I provoke and prod and suggest that those tools have always been with you?
Yes.
Yeah. And so having the focusing mechanism in 3D proximity to you, like if you're holding a certain kind of crystal or element in your hand, basically that's a tool that is helping you make the connection and focus of your energy. But what you're expressing now is that your awareness has expanded to understand that you don't actually have to have the thing in your hand in order to call upon its frequency.
Absolutely.
Beautiful. And
that applies to every single thing in every single moment of our lives.
yes,
We literally have that much, I'll use the word power, to call in whatever energy it is that we are called to work with or to manifest.
yes, and a precursor to the full realization of that awareness might have been coming into the understanding that the physical boundary of what you perceive to be your body, your skin, is not the edge of you, and your consciousness isn't limited by your vehicle.
Absolutely.
And I'm kind of bringing us back to the basics of that, because it feels to me like, because of our relationship with the society and the culture that we have manifested at this time, we all kind of have been exposed to this idea over and over and over that you are an autonomous being that is contained by your body, and that you move throughout the world interacting with other individual autonomous beings that are contained within their bodies, and that each of us are separate, not only from each other, but also from the culture where we live and the environment where we live and the memories of the environment where we live and the planet that we seem to have claimed dominion of, and the solar system, So I'm just wanting to remind us of this sort of underlying spiritual principle of our experience here, that for some people who are hearing this may be the first time in a long time that you've been exposed to this idea that you are not separate. But for some of us, even who have embarked a bit along a spiritual path, like this is a concept that it is a benefit to you and to others to remind yourself on an ongoing, regular basis, always kind of moving into being and operating from that space, not of separation, but of awareness of the interactivity and fluid nature of the energetic environment that we're a part of.
That was absolutely beautiful.
Well, thank you. Sometimes I
Wow.
get it right.
Oh, you always do.
Good. Thank you.
This is absolutely not what I was going to speak of next, but this popped in very quickly, so I'm going to share it.
Yeah.
This ties to all episodes we've done before, and it feels important to say after what Jared just said before we lead into a little bit more of this, these experiences and this topic, is just a reminder that whatever you claim is what you are. Whatever you claim is what you will experience. I mean, it sounds so simple, but we complicate it so much as humans because of the evolution and so forth that we have had as beings in society and community.
Yeah, I'm going to
But-
go ahead and say, I understand what
Yeah.
you mean by expressing that it's so simple, but there's so much profundity in this, and I'm going to say that most people, that's not fair. I have a sense that many people do not feel worthy of claiming what they are.
Okay, that is a beautiful direction to take that, because when I say what you claim is what you are, we can look at that from, the polarity aspect for sure. For example, if I claim I have a particular illness or disease or limitation, those are great words to put to it, then that's what I'm going to have.
And if you claim unworthiness, you will be given evidence of your unworthiness.
Absolutely. So that's exactly what you were saying.
Yeah.
And on the other side, you're right. So rarely are we empowered and inspired to claim our wholeness, our abundance, our divinity, our our aspect of source. So I just felt like bringing that into the conversation as a reminder, which we talk about in our episodes. And I feel like that helps me lead into a story, if you don't mind me sharing an experience.
Yes, please.
Okay, so one of the things I am called to do is go on to indigenous culture lands. So in our country would be Indian reservations is what people call them, but Native American reservations. And so often, and that's not the only thing by any means that I do. I go to many different types of places and literally just follow the calling of where to go. But this particular story relates to the Wind River Reservation, which is in Wyoming. It's along the Wind River mountain range, and you can actually, this one road, you can, there's an access point to get into the northern part of the Grand Teton National Park and the forest area. So I say all that to point out, to kind of give a frame of reference of where it is. So it's really in the western part of the state. And this is an area where Idaho and Montana and Wyoming kind of all come together, this whole area here that I've been in for quite some time. But the Wind River Reservation runs along the Wind River mountain range, and the southern tip of that mountain range is what's called South Pass. And South Pass, if you are interested in learning more about it, there is a plethora of history. But the Oregon Trail and several other trails that were traversed over the last couple of centuries on these expeditions to go west and so forth, to basically forge the so much of what is our modern day culture and civilizations, went along this trail, went along this pass, and they learned about South Pass through the indigenous tribes and began finding easier ways to cross the mountains. So I spent a great deal of time, quite a bit of time in the area. We went through South Pass. We did part of the Oregon Trail, which was so amazing to be able to be that immersed in that part of history. And then we went to museums and learned more about the history. And this museum has these museums, these places that you go and learn about this, and you get to connect to the history. What I think is so beautiful is you get to learn about the different cultures that came together in the forging, if you will, of this country. And this has happened in countries all over the world. You know, the joining and the blending of cultures that come together. And so one thing in particular I was called to do is go to I'm just going to pronounce it the way I pronounce it and the way I've heard many pronounce it, but there are various pronunciations out there. But the lady's name is Sacagawea, and she went on the Lewis and Clark expedition. She was actually became a mother on the expedition of 16 years old, and was from the Shoshone tribe. And her entire mission, if you will, or goal, if you will, in being a part of this expedition, not just her goal, but the goal of the expedition, I should say, was to be the peacemaker. So she was able to go in and help different tribes understand that these people were coming in peace. So I was called to go to her gravesite, and a series of things happened leading up to that, to where I actually had some items to offer as gifts. And it's beautiful how it's all serendipitous, such synchronicities, how it all came into my field and how it all played out. But without going into great detail on that, so I was to go and visit that. I got to see these beautiful horses all running around, just so amazing. And my husband, Tim, said they are the guardians of the land. It was beautiful. It was just so gorgeous. And then go and make this offering, these gift offerings, and spend some time with that energy. And then pulling out, I saw a trade center. And of course, they used to have these rendezvous to trade goods. The various cultures come together to trade goods. So I got very clearly that I was to go in, and I would be purchasing something. I would be participating in this peaceful trade. So I did. And of course, the items that came to me were symbolic of some very strong animal totems for me that have traveled with me the entire time. So it was a beautiful experience. I had a great exchange with this lady, wonderful time. And this is what I'm leading into. Everything I did there on that land, everything I was called there to do was about peace. Now, being someone who is so strongly connected and feels it all, and empathic is a word people use, so connected to the feelings and energies of the land, of the history of the land, of what has happened there before. I'm going to call that, the history of the land, the memory. I have choices of what I can do with that. I can focus on oppression, fear, separation, etc. Travesties, atrocities, whatever you want to call them. I can focus on that, or I can focus on what it is I want to bring in to the land that has already been brought to the land by those before me, that has already been anchored in, and I can continue to be a steward of that. And that's what I do. So I felt sharing that story would be a great way to share it, because can I tell you everything about driving through that area was rainbows and unicorns? Absolutely not. It's difficult. It's overwhelming. It shifts our energy and our moods quite quickly. if we aren't mindful of what we're doing, because you feel it, and it's heavy, and it can be dense, but you also can connect to the beauty of this woman who brought peace to so many experiences, to so many people. You can experience the beauty and the serenity of the horses running around free. You can experience those feelings of absolute joy when you're having this conversation and interaction with this beautiful woman that's running this trading post, which still exists. That's just so rare these days. We have a different concept of that now. So I thought talking about it from that perspective would maybe give a little bit more understanding of what I do and also why I do it, rather than saying, oh, I don't want to go there because it's heavy and it's oppressive, and I know that there's been some really difficult history there, and I don't want to feel that, and I don't want to experience that. And trust me, I have been there. I've been through that for years. It took me a while to come to the time and space that I'm in now to do what I do. It's as evolution, if you will. Mm-hmm. So I think that it might be a good place to kind of touch on really what we are doing. And I say we, referring to myself and those I meet along the way, my husband, whoever that might be that are in these situations and circumstances. So we is just a general term, but it's not just those of us who are out here on the road full time. We all have these opportunities to anchor in the energy that we would intend to bring to the land, to the place, to the environment, to society.
Yeah, and then circling back around to the quote that you journaled, I'll remind us of the word claim. Mm-hmm. So you're expressing that amidst your reception of a number of different frequencies, you claimed peace.
Yeah.
As you were experiencing all of that. And so you came there as peace. That's beautiful. I have at least 25 questions.
Well, that's good because, like I said before, I don't always know where to go with this topic. So that sounds wonderful.
So bear with me as I discern and determine where to begin with my questions to take us somewhere. Okay, first question. Ancient civilizations. Let me ask it this way. Did ancient civilizations occupy the same consciousness that we now occupy? Did they think the way we think?
No.
No. Have there been civilizations and cultures that predate our concept of recorded time?
Yes.
Yeah. Did some of these civilizations and cultures realize a stronger connection to the energy of the planet than we may now be able to realize?
Absolutely.
Were they able to tune in to the natural vortices and hotspots of the planet's consciousness?
Yes.
And with the stars. So when they settle or when they find sacred places, there's energy that draws them there. Is that fair?
Yes.
Yeah. So like when you establish where will be a temple or a church or a monastery, like there was a mind, there was a way of finding or realizing that relationship with the environment. Those weren't random, unconscious, thoughtless decisions, were they?
No.
I just want to set that scene first. So we have this energy where a lot of these ancient cultures found a way, or were a part of, or were tuned into the consciousness of the planet and found these places and lived there in some cases for a very long time. So that's one thing. And so then you use the word dense about some of the history that has happened in some of these places. So I'm going to just pull this out of your experience for a moment, and then we'll pull it back to your experience. So when Jared experiences either an acute moment of pain or a prolonged suffering or trauma emotionally, is that experience, where is it? Is it recorded? Does it impact me? If I walk into a room after having become depressed for 2 or 3 years, is it not true that I'm bringing that with me into that room?
Absolutely. A word I use strongly is imprint.
Mm. So it's in my auric field. Because our emotional body is in our auric field. And can the cells of my physical body feel that pain?
Absolutely.
Yeah. Can the auric fields of the other people in the room feel that pain?
Absolutely.
Yeah. Am I drawing more of that out of them?
I'm actually going to ask you to clarify that question. I do understand the question, but I feel it needs a little more
Refinement?
Yes.
Yeah. Let me add, or maybe say it a different way. You are meeting them on the level of your emanation.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
Because that's where
Okay.
your perception is.
Yes, that the reason I was saying, maybe explain a little more on the question, because yes, what you just said is absolutely. So there's this whole, the emanation of energy from both of you, from each of you, from all of you.
It's
who
like
all
it's
is
like
involved.
it's like your aura is calling that from them, because that's where your perception is.
Yes. So that is exactly why before I answered, I was wanting a little more clarity, because that was what I was immediately going to in my mind and in my thoughts and feelings, is that, well, that depends on the energy that you're bringing forth and that your perspective. And that, we've talked about this before, but perspective is everything. Everything.
Yeah.
So,
and so
I love that we have, Yes, go ahead.
Oh, I didn't want to cut you off if there was more, but I do have a next that's taking me to another place, which is
Okay.
so what we know about attraction is that like meets up with like and becomes stronger. So we're talking about energetic forms that if I'm vibrating in a certain dense place and I am part of a group of consciousnesses that I'm now energetically meeting up with them in that place, there's a coalescing of an energetic structure because our frequencies are coming together. And you had expressed the word that, and we all know about, you expressed several words that are dense, like atrocity and I don't remember some of the other words you used.
Travesty, I believe I said. Yeah.
Yeah. So all of these energies are at a low, I'm going to say low vibrating place. I really mean that not to say low or high, but that the frequency is dense and more solid and sluggish. Okay, so when something happens to a collective that is an acute, very painful, charged thing, and they're in this density, and the cells of their physical body are feeling that, and then their consciousness leaves their physical bodies. Does their spirit, does their causal body, does their soul take that density up in that transition?
No.
What happens to the structure of that dense energy that the cells of the physical body felt? And we can also add physical trauma to this because if you're having a battle and someone is like assaulting your physical body, you're feeling physical and emotional pain in a very charged way, and your body is released back to the earth. I hope I'm doing an effective job of this, but this is very fundamental. Like that energy is released just as your body is returning to the soil, the energy is going along there.
So you're doing a very good job with it. And it's, yes. So, and I talked about these imprints. You used the word memory. You could literally take a scoop of soil, and if you are one who truly connects to the energy of that, if you're choosing to connect to the energy of that, you are going to sense, feel, can possibly even see, hear, smell the experiences that are back in that soil. But that goes both ways. And what I mean by that is that's another thing to kind of tie into some of what I do, if you will, is that to me, that soil is beautiful, rich life. It gives so much beautiful, rich life to everything, and to more life and more creation. And it has so much organic matter that made it the richness that it is. So rather than using, even if I intuit some imprints and memory in that would be more of the dense nature, I get to choose okay, is that what I want to give momentum to? Is that the energy I want to continue? Do I want to continue holding that energy in that soil? Or do I want to focus on the life-giving aspects of it? And I want to bring in, you talked about emotion. So I had a conversation with my husband earlier, is that you can recognize that there's the history, and this is related to anything. You can recognize that there's the history and the imprint and the memory of the history. And you can take your emotions down that path and really focus on that. Or what you're really doing is bringing your own. This is kind of a powerful statement he made. If I'm going to paraphrase, because I don't recall exactly, but it was along the nature that really what you're doing is you're bringing your own interpretation or your own perspective, and this is in any situation, not just to a piece of land, but you're bringing your own. And it ties back to what Jared talked about, walking into the room. So whatever intention and interpretation and perspective that you choose to bring to that is what is the imprint you're making. And so for me, the work is not to discount or ignore the previous imprints and energies, whether it's me walking into a room and feeling the density of someone's energy, for example, or me walking onto the land and feeling the density or heaviness of the history there. Regardless of what it's about, I get to say, I get to choose, okay, what do I want to add to this? In other words, to me, it's an integration and then a transmutation of what is not going to serve me. In other words, it's not going to serve me to bring in all of the, what you said, lower vibrational density words that you could put to the trauma.
It doesn't
the atrocities.
serve you or
Right.
anyone else or any of creation.
Right. So if that's so I want to actually add something strongly that's coming in. So if I were to go that route that you just said, then what am I going to do? I'm going to continue to set up an opportunity to repeat that history. That just came through me so strongly.
Yeah. Isn't that...
That's huge.
Isn't that what we do?
Right.
I mean, let me be really clear.
Yes.
Collectively,
Yeah.
because there's this pattern where we reactivate, because I think perhaps as human beings, and I'm not criticizing this. This is just an observation, but there is I'm going to say a sort of false sense of safety in perpetuating old patterns and systems and beliefs. So what we're actually doing is we're sort of perpetuating past density when there is another level of safety that is so far greater that is becoming available to us.
That is powerful.
Yeah.
Very powerful, because I was asking myself as you were saying that, okay, so why is that? Why do we interpret and determine that there's safety in that? Because it's familiar and it's what we were taught. So therefore it's become conditioned and programmed
For millennia.
And that has become part of our cellular memory.
Yeah.
It's within us, but we do have the choice, which is what we are having these conversations about, is remembering our own free will and our own choice to make those decisions of what do I really want to do with this.
And it's the same when you're walking into a room as any human being having an interactive experience with your fellows, or if it's a shaman in a natural environment transmuting the memory of a landscape.
that statement definitely brings up a lot of emotion for me. Because it's absolute truth for me. It's my experience and it's my truth.
Yeah.
It's not one I often claim verbally, but it is.
I think we have, I may have said this as we were discussing right before the call, but we're at a convergence, you and I, here with this one. This is a special, they're all special episodes, but this is a special moment, and I'm really grateful to you for letting us go here. The reason I wanted to express what I just did in the way that I did is because I have a sense that it's very easy and comfortable comfortable to write off certain conversations and dynamics that we are sharing about because people don't feel it relates to them. Is that a fair way to say?
Yes, absolutely.
But this is the fundamental physical and spiritual platform from where we are all operating, either consciously or unconsciously. It just is. Like, there is not a human being alive that doesn't have a spiritual nature. There's not a human being alive that isn't an energy being. And it's sort of the travesty of our age that we would deny this. I think that was a pretty decent cliffhanger. As always, Terry and I were having lots of fun with this topic of collective memory and the memory of the landscape. This represents the end of part 1, which goes live on Tuesday, September 20th, 2022. And then you'll have to wait 2 weeks until October 4th to hear the continuation of the conversation. As always, we appreciate you very much. Thank you for joining us and being a part of this. See you next time.